Welcome to Confessions of a Small Biz Mama, episode 33. 3 things that a new business owner really needs to stop saying. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm actually doing something a little bit different. I'm actually recording this live in my Empower Bookkeeper Network group. These are the members of Bookkeeper Training School. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun, especially because we have so many new members, to do the recording here. So that way they would get the benefit of the show a little bit early. So plus it's so fun. Like I really wanted to spend some time with them this week because I've been in a mastermind all week. And so if you're new to the podcast, if you're just listening, you can go to smallbizmama.com. And our podcast is everywhere. We're on all the platforms. So anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can listen. We're also on YouTube. And so we've got lots of different options. So super excited to have you here. And if you like the show, make sure that you rate and review us wherever you listen, because that's how new people find us. All right, cool. So, and I want to thank Sarah for actually asking, like, where do we find your podcast? So thank you for that, Sarah. Okay, so, I work with a lot of new business owners, either through Bookkeeper Training School or, I talk to a lot of different groups. I work with a lot of clients. And so there are like 3 things that I hear over and over again that it makes me want to tear my hair out when I hear new businesses say these 3 things. Okay. And those 3 things are, but it needs to be perfect, or I don't have time, or my favorite, I don't wanna, an insert thing. And so we're going to break down each one of these, but these 3 things, the reason that they're harmful is because they put you in a mindset that just takes you down a really bad place. And then what happens is the fear starts to set in, right? When you get into this mindset. Have you ever had one of those days where, you have a negative thought, or, maybe you don't feel good. You're like, oh, my stomach's bothering me today. And it just seems like the rest of the day, like that one negative thought just steamrolls like the rest of the day, right? Have you ever had that happen? Okay. And that's what these 3 thoughts do to you. They steamroll you down into a bad place. So let's talk about these. So the first one, it needs to be perfect. Okay, guys. Okay, so I know that a lot of you who listen are religious. Okay. And so with that you should know, if that's your belief, that, the only one that's perfect is God. Right. And so with trying to struggle with this perfection, we're just driving ourselves crazy. Right. In our mastermind today, somebody said, like, I don't know enough about X to be able to put myself out there. The problem is, if you don't put yourself out there, you know how many people you help? 0. Including your family, right? Which is why you started your business. Okay. If it needs to be perfect, it will never get done. Exactly, Charity. It will never get done. Okay. One of the things that I love about the space that I'm in is that we always have the opportunity to improve. We always have, the opportunity to get better. And it's even like, those of you who are working in QuickBooks, right? The thing I love about QuickBooks or Wave or Xero or any of the online accounting softwares is that things can always be fixed. Things can always be changed. And so you go through, you do the work, right? You do the best that you can. And then if you need to move something, if you need to change something, you can, because they know that we're not perfect. Okay. So you have to give yourself some grace. You have to be able to say, you know what? I have to put my best self out there and always try to do a little bit better the next time. Right? Because the wonderful thing about what we do is that we have the ability to learn, right? We have the ability to check out these new things. And we just have to stop. We have to stop for a second and give ourselves some grace and say, I'm going to put something out there because that something is going to help somebody. Right. And so that's why, it needs to be perfect. That's the thing that's just going to stop you completely, because you will never, ever, ever put anything out there if you do. And so that's just got to go. Got to go. Okay. So needs to be perfect, out the door, gone, bye. Okay. So the second one, I don't have time. Okay. So here's the thing, right? And this is typically like new business owners. Okay. I've seen new business owners tell me, well, I don't have time to market. I don't have time to do X, Y, Z. I don't have, and it typically has to do with marketing and client acquisition. I don't have time to be on Pinterest. I don't have time to be on Facebook. I don't have time to go to networking events. And I'm like, okay, if you don't have time with no clients, then how are you going to have time for clients? Like, explain this to me. Okay. I understand, like, marketing is not the most fun thing for most people. Okay. Especially if you think of marketing kind of in a sleazy way. And in bookkeeper training school, we talk a lot about, ways to give value, right? So that you really feel like you're teaching more and you're sharing information more than you're really marketing. That's how I've grown, both of my businesses. Is really doing that like heart of a teacher thing, right? So it doesn't have to be sleazy. It doesn't have to be scummy. But if you go in that like, oh, I don't have time, right? I don't have time to market. I don't have time to build my business. That's just not the right attitude. So first of all, I think when you come at it from that attitude, like, people can tell that if you are genuinely, you want to be there, you're happy to interact. Like, if you have this chip on your shoulder, of I don't have the time, that comes off. Like, you can see that. Okay. And so, that's when, if you're in, I see this a lot, like when people are like out, like marketing around in Facebook, right? And we talk about, spending time in groups and interacting with people and getting on their radar and doing all these things. If you have this mentality that I don't have the time to do this, your responses are going to be short. You're not going to really be engaging with people the way that you should be. You're not going to be providing value. So like, if somebody asks a bookkeeping question or just like a business question, you tend to, and I do this sometimes, you'll give like a short answer instead of like really providing a good, robust answer that multiple people in the thread are going to read and go, wow, I want to interact with you. I want to work with you. And so, taking that time to say, okay, I'm going to block off, right? And I teach this in bookkeeper training school. I'm going to block off a certain amount of time that I'm going to go out and network. And what I recommend is, let's say that you've got 10 hours a week to work on your business. Okay. I would probably allocate about 15% of that time to administrative stuff. Okay. In the beginning, you have a lot of administrative stuff you've got to do when you're first starting your business. And then 85% of that time, right, that's left over should be either client work or marketing. Now, if you don't have any clients yet, then guess where you're spending 8.5 hours a week? You're marketing, right? And so that can look like a lot of different things, but I mean, you have to go out and you have to interact with people. Okay. And if you're too busy to do that piece, again, I really question, like, how are you going to fit the client work or the fulfillment work that you need to do for your business, whatever type of business you have? How are you going to fit that into your schedule if you can't fit the marketing in to acquire the clients? See where I'm going with that? So it may be something that, that you might not enjoy. Like, and that gets us to point number 3, right? So let me just recap real quick. Point number 1 is it needs to be perfect. Okay. And if it needs to be perfect, you're not getting anything done. Okay. Number 2 is I don't have time. Okay. And again, I question, if you don't have the time to do the marketing to get the clients, how are you going to get the clients, right? How are you going to do that work? The third one is I don't want to. Okay. When you're first starting a business, and remember, I've started 2 of them right from the ground up. Okay. Um, 2. Okay. There are lots of things that you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. I personally, I'm a questioner and I like to learn. So I love learning new things, and there are certain things I don't like to do. But I really feel like in my business, it's important that I understand how everything works. So that way, when I get to the point that I'm like, you know what? I'm making X amount of money, I can do my first hire, right? Or I can outsource some things. I know what I want to outsource, right? But at least I know how everything works. So, being an accountant, I can do all my accounting, I can handle all my finances, I can do my bookkeeping, I know how to do marketing, I know how most of our tech works, I can build a website, which is like, I'm totally not trained in this stuff, but I've learned how to do it. I can write copy, I can write emails, I can write blog posts. I know enough about SEO to get things, charted on Google. They're just things that I've learned, and all the knowledge is out there if you want it. But to kind of put your foot down and say, I'm going into this business and this is the only thing I want to do and I don't want to do anything else, go be an employee, because your business isn't going to make it. Part of being a business owner is doing all the things until you make enough money to not have to do all the things. And so if you don't have, kind of an exploratory mindset, and an inquisitive mindset, then business might not be right for you, because it really takes a lot of different skills, and they're not hard, but it takes a lot of different skills to run a business. It just does. And so, that's one of the things that, we do in Bookkeeper Training School, is we talk about a lot of different things. We talk about time management. We talk about energy management. We talk about, when you need a website and how to build a Facebook page and how to do marketing and how to do contracts and all these things that, you just, you don't have to know perfectly. Because again, we're not trying to be perfect. Go back to item 1. We do not have to be perfect, but we need to know a little bit about a lot of things to be a bookkeeper. Okay. To own any sort of business. You just do, right? And so, so those are the 3 things. The 3 things that if you're hearing yourself, say any of these things or some variation of these things, I really want you to think about how that's impacting your business. Okay. Yeah, so it was funny. So I'll tell you a story, okay, before I recap. So I'll tell you a story. So I got asked in a group this week. I got tagged in a post, and it was like, how do I make this thing, which is totally not deductible for business, okay, deductible for business? And I'm like, you can't. Like, well, how do you stop being pissed off that you're paying taxes? Like, simple, you make enough money that you don't really care that you're paying taxes. So that you can do the things that you want to do, these things that you want to write off that you can't write off. You make enough money that you don't really care that you can't write them off. And that's kind of my, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of one of those people that I'm like, how do we put a good spin on this? And maybe it's because I'm a cancer survivor. I don't know. Okay. But most things just aren't that big of a deal. Okay. Most of the things that stress us out, that freak us out, that get us to that point where we're like, about to like, kill somebody. Okay. Most of those things, they're not important in the greater scope of things. And it's funny because like I talk to other cancer survivors, I talk to other people who've kind of had like traumatic experiences in their life, some sort of trauma, and they pretty much all can't come to this conclusion. And I wish that there was like a way that you could just kind of like, kind of like bonk somebody on the forehead and be like, look, ta-da, okay, get it. Because it makes life so much easier. Like I wish that people did not have to go through that sort of trauma in order to be able to get that. And I think like that's where, me being able to kind of get past these three things kind of comes from. Like I really think that that's part of it. So you know, you got to watch for these three things. So watch for these three things. Okay. It needs to be perfect. You got it. If your brain starts doing that, you need to do a check. Okay. You need to look at what you're doing. And that's where being in these groups, right? I'm a huge fan of having these groups, like, the Empowered Bookkeeper Network. I absolutely love our group. So we have over 400 people in the group now. And they're so helpful and they're so positive and they reinforce each other. And it's like people are sharing things going, what do you think of this? And people, give each other like genuine feedback, like, hey, this looks really good, but maybe tweak this a little bit. It's awesome, right? And it's a great place. So like if you're at that point, like find a community for yourself, whether it's online or whether, it's in person or on Zoom. Find some friends. You can say, hey, I'm working on this thing for my business. Can I show it to you? Do you mind? Like, can I show this to you? I've got friends like that, like all over the country. That I'm like, do you mind? Can I send you this thing? Like, can you just look at it? I'm working on some copy. Can you, it helps you with that perfectionism because you work on something a little bit and then you send it to somebody. It's awesome. It's great. Okay. I don't have time. If you're saying you don't have time and you don't have clients yet, just saying. Okay. And then I don't wanna. I think the best way to get through I don't wanna, right? So first of all, it's really important to make sure that you understand everything that's going on in your business, right? And remember that this is not a permanent thing. So if you're doing all the things in your business, and you identify those things that you don't want to do, right? Like I would seriously. So here's the thing: as you're going through, okay, identify all the things that you're doing in your business, and then circle the things that only you can do, and keep track of all those things that you could outsource. And as you start to make money, right, and that's what we've done in our businesses. As you start to make money, you say, you know what? I'm going to hire somebody to do the marketing. Or I'm going to, I hate email. It drives me crazy. I don't want to do email. I'm going to hire somebody to go through my email. And you can hire people to do that. We have 2 people who work for our company. That's part of their role. Actually, all 3 people who work for us, actually part of their role is to check email. But that's part of what they do. So just think about, so as you're going through your business, right? I don't want you to think, I don't wanna. Just write everything down and then circle the things that only you can do. And I think you're going to find that there are very few things in your business that only you can do. Okay. And then just think like, okay, so, if I could, when I start to make money, what is something that I would outsource? Or as you're growing your business, if there's something that you really, really don't like to do, okay, and you have a valuable skill, you can always barter with somebody to get that off your plate. Okay, so think about that as an option as well. All right, so I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this was helpful for you. And I do read emails. So here's the thing: what I do with my email, Because somebody just said like, note to self, don't email Kristen. So what happens is I have somebody who goes through all my email and like classifies it all for me so that I know like what are the important things to reply to. I don't have to go through all the crap. I don't have to go through all the spam and the junk and whatever. Somebody does that for me. So it's very, very cool. All right. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you, because mindset does matter. You know, Charity just said that in the group. Mindset does matter. Make sure that you're doing something to work on your mindset every single day, because it is so important to your business. It's so important to your growth. All right, mamas, I love you all very much. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Small Biz Mama with Kristen Ingram. If you'd like to learn how to create more margin in your life, please visit us at smallbizmama.com. That's smallbizmama.com.